Bergen, historically Bjørgvin, is a city and municipality in Hordaland on the west coast of Norway. At the end of the first quarter of 2016, the municipality's population was 278,121 and the urban population was 250,420 as of the 1st of January 2015. Approximately 420,000 people live in the Bergen area. Bergen is the second largest city in Norway. The municipality covers an area of 465 square kilometers and is located on the peninsula of Bergenshalvøyen. The city centre and northern neighborhoods are located on Byfjorden, the city fjord, and the city is surrounded by mountains. Bergen is known as the City of Seven Mountains. Many of the extra-municipal suburbs are located on islands. Bergen is the administrative centre of Hordaland and consists of 8 boroughs: Arna, Bergenhus, Fana, Fyllingsdalen, Laksevåg, Ytrebygda, Arstad and Asani. Trading in Bergen may have started as early as the 1020s. According to tradition, the city was founded in 1070 by King Olav-Kjær. Its name was Bjørgvin, the green meadow among the mountains. It served as Norway's capital in the 13th century, and from the end of the 13th century became a bureau city of the Hanseatic League. Until 1789, Bergen enjoyed exclusive rights to mediate trade between northern Norway and abroad, and it was the largest city in Norway until the 1830s when it was surpassed by the capital, Oslo. What remains of the Bergen is a World Heritage Site. The city was hit by numerous fires over the years. The Bergen School of Meteorology was developed at the Geophysical Institute beginning in 1917. The Norwegian School of Economics was founded in 1936, and the University of Bergen in 1946. From 1831 to 1972, Bergen was its own county. In 1972 the municipality absorbed 4 surrounding municipalities, and at the same time became a part of Hordaland County. The city is an international centre for aquaculture, shipping, offshore petroleum industry and subsea technology, and a national centre for higher education, media, tourism and finance. Bergen Port is Norway's busiest in both freight and passengers, with over 300 cruise ship calls a year bringing nearly 500,000 passengers to Bergen, a number that has doubled in 10 years. Almost half of the passengers are German or British. The city's main football team is SK Brann, and the city's unique tradition is the Bjørkorps. Natives speak the distinct Bergensk dialect. The city features Bergen Airport, Flesland, Bergen Light Rail, and is the terminus of the Bergen Line. 4 large bridges connect Bergen to its suburban municipalities. Bergen is well known for having the mildest winter climate, though with a lot of precipitation, of all cities in the Nordic countries. In December to March, the temperature difference between Bergen and Oslo can be up to 30 degrees Celsius. Despite the fact that both cities are located at approximately 60 degrees north, the Gulf Stream keeps the sea relatively warm, considering the latitude, and the mountains protect the city from cold winds from the north, northeast and east. History. The city of Bergen was traditionally thought to have been founded by King Olav-Kjær, son of Harald Hardrade, in 1070 AD, 4 years after the Viking Age ended with the Battle of Hastings. Modern research has, however, discovered that a trading settlement was established already during the 1020s or 1030s. Bergen gradually assumed the function of capital of Norway in the early 13th century, as the first city where a rudimentary central administration was established. The city's cathedral was the site of the first royal coronation in Norway in the 1150s, and continued to host royal coronations throughout the 13th century. Bergenhus fortress dates from 1240s and guards the entrance to the harbour in Bergen. The functions of capital city were lost to Oslo during the reign of King Haakon V. In the middle of the 14th century, North German merchants who had already been present in substantial numbers since the 13th century, founded one of the four contour of the Hanseatic League at Bryggen in Bergen. The principal export traded from Bergen was dried cod from the northern Norwegian coast, which started around 1100. The city was granted monopoly in regards to trade from the north of Norway by King Haakon Håkonsson. Stockfish was the main reason that the city became one of North Europe's largest centres for trade at the time. By the late 14th century, Bergen had established itself as the centre of the trade in Norway. The Hanseatic merchants lived in their own separate quarter of town, where Middle Low German was used, enjoying exclusive rights to trade with the northern fishermen that each summer sailed to Bergen. Today, Bergen's old quayside, Bryggen, is on UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites. In 1349, the Black Death was inadvertently brought to Norway by the crew of an English ship arriving in Bergen. In the 15th century, the city was attacked several times by the Vittel brothers, and in 1429 they succeeded in burning the royal castle and much of the city. In 1665, the city's harbour was the site of the Battle of Vegen, where an English naval flotilla attacked a Dutch merchant and treasure fleet supported by the city's garrison. Throughout the 15th and 16th centuries, Bergen remained one of the largest cities in Scandinavia and was Norway's biggest city until the 1830s, when the capital city of Oslo became the largest. From around 1600, the Hanseatic dominance of the city's trade gradually declined in favor of Norwegian merchants, and in the 1750s, the Hanseatic contour finally closed. Bergen retained its monopoly of trade with northern Norway until 1789. Bergen was separated from Hordaland as a county of its own in 1831. It was established as a municipality on 1 January 1838. The rural municipality of Bergen Land District was merged with Bergen on 1 January 1877. The rural municipality of Varstad was merged with Bergen on 1 July 1915. The rural municipalities of Arna, Fana, Laksevåg, and Asani were merged with Bergen on 1 January 1972. The city lost its status as a separate county on the same date. Bergen is now a municipality in Norway, in the county of Hordaland. Second World War. During the Second World War, Bergen was occupied on the first day of the German invasion on 9 April 1940. After a brief fight between German ships and the Norwegian coastal artillery, on 20 April 1944, during the German occupation, the Dutch cargo ship Voorboed anchored off the Bergenhus fortress, loaded with over 120 tons of explosives, blew up, killing at least 150 people and damaging historic buildings. The city was subject to some Allied bombing raids, aiming at German naval installations in the harbour. Some of these caused Norwegian civilian casualties numbering about 100. The resistance groups in Bergen were Saborg, Malorg, Theatergruppen, Savorg, Stein Organisasjonen, and the Communist Party. Fires. The city's history is marked by numerous great fires. In 1198, the Bagler faction set fire to the city in connection with a battle against the Birkebeiner faction during the Civil War. In 1248, Holmen and Sversborg burned, and 11 churches were destroyed. In 1413 another fire struck the city, and 14 churches were destroyed. In 1428 the city was plundered by German pirates, and in 1455 Hanseatic merchants were responsible for burning down Munkeliv Abbey. In 1476, Bergen burned down in a fire started by a drunk trader. In 1582, another fire hit the city Santuan Strandsiden. In 1675, 105 buildings burned down in Overgaten. In 1686 a new Great Fire hit Strandsiden, destroying 231 city blocks and 218 boathouses. The greatest fire to date happened in 1702 when 90% of the city was burned to ashes. In 1751, there was a great fire at Vagsbunnen. In 1756, a new fire at Strandsiden burned down 1,500 buildings, and further great fires hit Strandsiden in 1771 and 1901. In 1916, 300 buildings burned down in the city centre, and in 1955 parts of Bergen burned down. Toponymy: the Old Norse forms of the name were Bjørgvin and Bjørgvin. The first element is Bjørg, which translates to mountain. The last element is van, which means a new settlement where there used to be a pasture, a meadow. The full meaning is then, the meadow among the mountains is a suitable name. Bergen is often called the city among the seven mountains. It was the playwright Ludvig Holberg who felt so inspired by the seven hills of Rome, that he decided that his hometown must be blessed with the corresponding seven mountains, and locals still argue which seven they are. In 1918, there was a campaign to reintroduce the Norse form Bjørgvin as the name of the city. This was turned down, but as a compromise, the name of the diocese was changed to Bjørgvin by Spedal. Geography: Bergen occupies most of the peninsula of Bergenshalvøyen in the district of Mid-Hordaland in mid-western Hordaland. The municipality covers an area of 465 square kilometers. Most of the urban area is located on or close to a fjord or bay, although there are several mountains located within the urban area. The city center is surrounded by the seven mountains, although there is disagreement as to which of the 9 mountains constitute these. Ulriken, Fløyen, Lovstakken and Damsgardsfjellet are always included, as well as 3 of Lidehorn, Sandviksfjellet, Blamenen, Rundimenen and Kolbeinsvarden. Gulfjelle is the highest mountain in Bergen at 987 meters above mean sea level. Bergen is sheltered from the North Sea by the islands Askøy, Holsnøy and Sotra. Bergen borders the municipalities Melland, Lindås and Osterøy to the north, Vaksdal and Samnanger to the east, Ås and Ostervoll to the south, and Sund Fjell and Askøy to the west. Climate: Bergen features a temperate oceanic climate. Areas of the municipality at some higher altitude are largely oceanic subpolar, with cool winters and mild summers. Bergen's weather is warmer than the city's latitude might suggest. The Gulf Stream provides the city with the warmest winters of all cities in the Nordic countries, and the first frosts sometimes show up well into December. Temps below -10 degrees Celsius are rare. Every summer, temperatures reach the upper 20s several times, but only some days each decade. The city sees temperatures over 30 degrees. Bergen experiences plentiful rainfall in all seasons, with annual precipitation measuring 2,250 millimeters on average. This is because the city is surrounded by mountains that cause moist North Atlantic air to undergo orographic lift, yielding abundant rainfall. Rain fell every day between the 29th of October 2006 and the 21st of January 2007, 85 consecutive days. The highest temperature ever recorded was 31.8 degrees Celsius on the 29th of June 1947, and the lowest was minus 13.3 degrees Celsius in January 1987. The high precipitation is often used in the marketing of the city, and figures to a degree on postcards sold in the city. For some time there were umbrella vending machines in the city, but these did not turn out to be a success. Compared to areas behind the mountains on the Scandinavian peninsula, Bergen is much wetter and has a narrower temperature range with very cool summers and mild winters. In terms of temperature and precipitation, Bergen has more in common with the climate of Scotland across the sea than with Oslo and Sweden, where long heat and cold waves occur regularly. In recent years, precipitation and winds have increased in the city. In late 2005, heavy rains caused floods and several landslides, the worst of which killed 3 people on the 14th of September. Some indications are that, due to climate change, storms causing landslides and floods will become more severe in the area and in the surrounding counties. As a response, the municipality created a special 24-man rescue unit within the fire department in 2005 to respond to future slides and other natural disasters, and neighborhoods considered at risk of slides were surveyed in 2006. The prediction was supported by over 480 landslides in Hordaland County from the spring of 2006 to the summer of 2007. Most of the slides hit roads, however none of them caused damage to cars, buildings, or people until October 2007, when a large dislodged rock killed a motorist. Another concern is the risk of rising sea levels. Already, Bergen is regularly flooded at extreme tides, and it is feared that as sea levels rise, floods will become a major problem in Bergen. Floods may in the future reach the railroad tracks leading out of the city. Stiftelse Bergen, the foundation responsible for preserving the UNESCO site, has, amongst others, suggested that a sea wall that could be raised and lowered as demanded by the tides be built outside the harbor to protect the city. Demographics. As of the end of Q1 2016, the municipality had a population of 278,120, making the population density 599 people per square kilometer. As of the 1st of January 2015, the main urban area of Bergen had 250,420 residents and covered an area of 96.71 square kilometers. Other urban areas, as defined by Statistics Norway, consist of Indre Arna, Fana Hammeren, White-Iana, Hylke and Espeland. Ethnic Norwegians make up 84.5% of Bergen's residents. In addition, 8.1% were first- or second-generation immigrants of Western background and 7.4% were first- or second-generation immigrants of non-Western background. The population grew by 4,549 people in 2009, a growth rate of 18%. 96% of the population live in urban areas. As of 2002, the average gross income for men above the age of 17 is 426,000 Norwegian krone. The average gross income for women above the age of 17 is 238,000 Norwegian kroner, with the total average gross income being 330,000 Norwegian kroner. In 2007, there were 104.6 men for every 100 women in the age group of 20 to 39. 22.8% of the population were under 17 years of age, while 4.5% were 80 and above. The immigrant population in Bergen includes 42,169 individuals with backgrounds from 180 countries, representing 15.5% of the city's population. Of these, 50.2% have background from Europe, 28.9% from Asia, 13.1% from Africa, 5.5% from Latin America, 1.9% from North America, and 0.4% from Oceania. The immigrant population in Bergen in the period 1993 to 2008 increased by 119.7%, while the ethnic Norwegian population has grown by 8.1% during the same period. The national average is 138.0% and 4.2%. The immigrant population has thus accounted for 43.6% of Bergen's population growth and 60.8% of Norway's population growth during the period 1993 to 2008, compared with 84.5% in Oslo. The immigrant population in Bergen has changed a lot since 1970. As of 1 January 1986, there were 2,870 persons with non-Western immigrant background in Bergen. In 2006, this figure had increased to 14,630. Of the non-Western immigrant population in Bergen was 5 times higher than in 1986. This is a slightly slower growth than the national average, which has sextupled during the same period. Also, in relation to the total population in Bergen, the proportion of non-Western increased significantly. In 1986, the proportion of the total population in the municipality of non-Western background was 3.6%. In January 2006, persons with non-Western immigrant background accounted for 6% of the population in Bergen. The share of Western immigrants has remained stable at around 2% in the period. The number of Poles in Bergen rose from 697 in 2006 to 3,128 in 2010. The Church of Norway is the largest denomination in Bergen, with 201,006 adherents in 2012. Bergen is the seat of the Diocese of Bjørgvin, with Bergen Cathedral as its centerpiece, which St. John's Church is the city's most prominent. The state church is followed by 52,059 irreligious, 12,000 Catholics belonging to St. Paul Catholic Church, 4,947 members of various Protestant free churches, 2,707 Muslims, 816 Hindus, 255 Russian Orthodox and 147 Oriental Orthodox. Cityscape. The city center of Bergen is located west in the municipality, facing the fjord of Bifjorden. It is situated among a group of mountains known as the Seven Mountains, although the number is a matter of definition. From here, the urban area of Bergen extends to the north, west and south, and to its east is a large mountain massif, outside of the city center and the surrounding neighborhoods. The majority of the population lives in relatively sparsely populated residential areas that have been built since the 1950s, while some are dominated by apartment buildings and modern terraced houses. Others are dominated by single-family homes. The oldest part of Bergen is the area around the Bay of Vegen in the city center. Originally centered on the eastern side of the bay, Bergen eventually expanded west and southwards. Few buildings from the oldest period remain, the most significant being St. Mary's Church from the 12th century. For several hundred years, the extent of the city remained almost constant. The population was stagnant, and the city limits were narrow. In 1702, 7/8 of the city burned. Most of the old buildings of Bergen, including Bryggen, were built after the fire. The fire marked a transition from tar-covered houses, as well as the remaining log houses, to painted and some brick-covered wooden buildings. The last half of the 19th century was a period of rapid expansion and modernization of the city. The fire of 1855 west of Torgallmenningen led to the development of regularly sized city blocks in this area of the city centre. The city limits were expanded in 1876, and Norway.At, Molenpris and Sandviken were urbanized with large-scale construction of city blocks housing both the poor and the wealthy. Their architecture is influenced by a variety of styles: historicism, classicism and Art Nouveau. The wealthy built villas between Molenpris and Norway.At, and on the side of Mount Fløyen. These areas were also added to Bergen in 1876. Simultaneously, an urbanization process was taking place in Solheimsviken in Årstad, at the time outside of Bergen municipality, centered on the large industrial activity in the area. The workers' homes in this area were poorly built, and little remains after large-scale redevelopment in the 1960s-1980s. After Årstad became a part of Bergen in 1916, a development plan was applied to the new area. Few city blocks akin to those in Norway.At and Molenpris were planned. Many of the worker class built their own homes, and many small, detached apartment buildings were built. After World War II, Bergen had again run short on land to build on, and, contrary to the original plans, many large apartment buildings were built in Landers in the 1950s and 1960s. Bergen acquired Fyllingsdalen from Fana municipality in 1955. Like similar areas in Oslo, Fyllingsdalen was developed into a modern suburb with large apartment buildings, mid-rises, and some single-family homes. In the 1960s and 1970s, similar developments took place outside of Bergen's city limits, for example in Loddefjord. At the same time as planned city expansion took place inside Bergen, its extra-municipal suburbs too grew rapidly. Wealthy citizens of Bergen had been living in Fana since the 19th century, but as the city expanded it became more convenient to settle in the municipality. Similar processes took place in Asani and Laksevåg. Most of the homes in these areas are detached row houses. Single-family homes are small apartment buildings. After the surrounding municipalities were merged with Bergen in 1972, expansion has continued in largely the same manner, although the municipality encourages condensing near commercial centers, future Bergen light rail stations, and elsewhere. As part of the modernization wave of the 1950s and 1960s, and due to damage caused by World War II, the city government ambitiously planned redevelopment of many areas in central Bergen. The plans involved demolition of several neighborhoods of wooden houses, namely Nordnes, Marken, and Stolen. None of the plans was carried out in its original form. The Marken and Stolen redevelopment plans were discarded entirely, and that of Nordnes only, carried out in the area that had been most damaged by war. The City Council of Bergen had in 1964 voted to demolish the entirety of Marken. However, the decision proved to be highly controversial and the decision was reversed in 1974. Bryggen was under threat of being wholly or partly demolished, after the fire of 1955, when a large number of the buildings burned to the ground. Instead of being demolished, the remaining buildings were eventually restored and accompanied by reconstructions of some of the burned buildings. Demolition of old buildings and occasionally whole city blocks is still taking place, the most recent major example being the 2007 razing of Jonsvollskjortelet at Nostet. Billboards are banned in the city. Administration Since 2000, the city of Bergen has been governed by a city government based on the principle of parliamentarism. The government consists of 7 government members called commissioners, and is appointed by the city council, the supreme authority of the city. After the local elections of 2007, the city has been ruled by a right-wing coalition of the Progress Party, the Christian Democratic Party and the Conservative Party, each with 2 commissioners. The Conservative Party member Trude Drevland is mayor, on unpaid leave since the 1st of September 2015, while Conservative Ranhild Stolt-Nielsen is the leader of the city government, the most powerful political position in Bergen. After the 2015 landslide elections for the Labour Party, Matem Jospersen is the new Bergen mayor and Harald Schjeldrup the new Bergen governing mayor. The Labour Party has formed a new centre-left city government including the Labour Party, the Liberal Party and the Christian Democrats. 2007 and 2011 elections. There were Norwegian local elections. 2011. The 2007 City Council elections were held on the 10th of September. The Socialist Left Party and the Pensioners Party ended up as the losers of the election, SV going from 11.6% of the votes in the 2003 elections to 7.1%, and PP losing 2.9%, ending up at 1.2%. The Liberal Party more than doubled, going from 2.7% to 5.8%. The Conservative Party lost 1.1% of the votes, ending up at 26.3%, while the Progress Party got 20.2% of the votes, a gain of 3% since the 2003 elections. The Christian Democratic Party gained 0.2%, ending up at 6.3%. The Red Electoral Alliance lost 1.4%, ending up at 4.5%, while the Centre Party gained 1.2%, ending up at 2.8%. Finally, the Labour Party continued being the second largest party in the city, gaining 1% and ending up at 23.9%. 2015 elections. In the 2015 election, the Labour Party won the Bergen election with a landslide, and got 37.8% of the votes, up 9% from 2011, while the Conservative Party lost 12.8% and ended up at just 22.1%. The Labour Party formed a new centre-left city government with the Liberal Party and the Christian Democrats. The Labour Party is now holding both the mayor office and governing mayor office. Boroughs. Bergen is divided into 8 boroughs, as seen on the map to the right, clockwise. Starting with the northernmost, the boroughs are Asani, Arna, Fana, Area.Bergen, Fyllingsdalen, Laksevåg, Arstad and Bergenhus. The city centre is located in Bergenhus. Parts of Fana, Area.Bergen, Asani and Arna are not part of the Bergen urban area, explaining why the municipality has approximately 20,000 more inhabitants than the urban area. Local borough administrations have varied since Bergen's expansion in 1972. From 1974, each borough had a politically chosen administration. From 1989, Bergen was divided into 12 health and social districts, each locally administrated. From 2000 to 2004, the former organizational form with 8 politically chosen local administrations was again in use, and from 2008 through 2010, a similar form existed where the local administrations had less power than previously. Pertaining to the table above, the acreage figures include freshwater and uninhabited mountain areas, except 1. The borough Bergenhus is 8.73 kilometres squared. The rest is water and uninhabited mountain areas. 2. The borough Arstad is 8.47 kilometres squared. The rest is water and uninhabited mountain areas. A former borough, Centrum was a borough. The borough was numbered 01, and its perimeter was from Store Lundsgardsvann and Strømmen along Puddefjorden around Nordnes and over to Skovakin, up Mount Fløy and east of Langjellevannet on to Skansemyren and over Forskjønnelsen to Store Lundsgardsvann, south of the railroad tracks. The population of the borough numbered in 1994 more than 18,000 people.